Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Sarah Gale, Senior Director of Investor Relations at the Allegheny Conference. Welcome to today's latest installment of the conference's Response and Recovery webinar series. Before we begin our program today, I would like to thank our sponsors for their generous support that make all of this possible. Peoples, Giant Eagle, Highmark Health, and UPMC Health Plan. I'd also like to thank the members of the Allegheny Conference's Regional Investors Council for their time, talent, and resources in support of the conference's work on behalf of the region. Today we'll focus on a timely and critical topic, childcare. Childcare is increasingly becoming a barrier for employees as many workplaces are preparing for a full return to the workplace or effective work from home. Since the beginning of COVID, it's estimated that more than half of private childcare providers have permanently gone out of business because they weren't able to sustain operations and income over the past several months. This will leave a void for employees in the region. And in addition, parents may lack confidence in returning their children to congregate care settings. During the course of this webinar, our presenters will aim to provide some guidance on how to navigate the challenges around childcare in our current way of living and working. This morning, you'll hear from Kat McLaughlin, EVP, Director of Talent at the PNC Financial Services Group, Cara Simonello, Executive Director of Trying Together, Stephanie Lewis, Director of Allegheny Partners for Out of School Time from the United Way of Southwestern PA, and Christine Smith, Eligibility Supervisor, Early Learning Resource Center Region 4, serving Fayette, Greene, Washington, and Westmoreland counties. Following today's presentation, we'll head into the Q&A portion of the webinar, moderated by my colleague, Becky Thatcher-Bear, Director of Community Development here at the Allegheny Conference. Now, without further delay, it's my pleasure to get our program started with Kat McLaughlin from the PNC Financial Services Group. Kat?
Thank you, Sarah, and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. As Sarah indicated, I think this is one of the greatest challenges that we face for our talent in the region is the conversation around childcare. And I personally got involved in this as I thought through the challenges from our PNC employees about a month and a half ago. And as Sarah mentioned, it's not only the problem for our employees to find childcare, but our ability to keep our childcare organizations up and running so that when we are ready to return to work, they're available and there for us. And like everything that surprises me about our region, it started with an unbelievable amount of coordination between the groups you're going to hear on the phone today, which have created a phenomenal program through Trying Together for allowing our employees, your colleagues, any of the individuals in our 10-county region to access information around childcare for not only early childhood care, but all the way through the early teens. And so with that, I'm delighted to participate. I'm delighted that we are so supported by all the people who are on the phone today. And I want to take this opportunity to hand the conversation over to Cara from Trying Together.
Thanks, Kat, and thank you to the Allegheny Conference for this opportunity. Certainly, anytime we get a chance to talk more about childcare, it excites us, so thank you again. And thanks, Mickey, for handling all of the logistics. We can move forward to the next slide, and next slide. So for folks that don't know me, my name's Cara Simonello. I'm Executive Director for Trying Together. We're a regional intermediary for the early care and education field. We serve 10 counties in Southwest Pennsylvania, and the primary focus of our work is really on advocacy, community resources, and professional growth opportunities for the needs and rights of children, their families, and the individuals who care for children. More information about us can be found at tryingtogether.org. Next slide. So I wanted to start the webinar by really sort of getting you grounded in what early childhood education and care looks like. You know, we talk a lot about the system, but the system is made up of many parts. So I want to start by just sharing that early childhood experiences can occur in a number of settings. They can occur in home settings. They can occur in commercial spaces, center-based settings, but they can also occur in both public and private school. Here in Allegheny County, there are about 650 licensed programs, and they serve children. Many of them serve children as young as 6 weeks and as old as school age 12. Across Washington, Westmoreland, Fayette, and Greene, you'll hear from Christine a little later, there are about 250 licensed programs. And my colleague Stephanie Lewis in a couple minutes will talk to you about the out of school time and summer programming that occurs alongside the licensed childcare programs. Next slide. So now that you know a little bit about the range of settings that childcare can occur in, I think it's really important to always start with, what does high quality childcare look like? What are things that we should be looking for when we are seeking out our childcare needs? And the number one, I say it all the time, the number one most important piece or part of the equation is really the adults that care for children. So the interactions that adults have should be caring, responsive, warm. They should communicate with children through talk and touch and song and stories. What we know, we live in Fred Rogers country, right? So what we know best about the way that children learn is through play-based curriculum. So play is the way that children learn. So that's another thing to look for. And then another big piece of the equation of what's considered high quality is really that family engagement experience that the program offers. They should have an open door policy, and they should provide regular updates regarding a child's day. We'll talk a little bit later in this webinar about COVID, but I can't underscore enough the importance of that family communication piece. And most especially given sort of the experience that we collectively are having around the world with this pandemic. Communication, helps to put folks' minds at ease. And so that should be a high priority for a program. Here in Pennsylvania, we also have something called Keystone Stars, which is our quality rating and improvement system. The STARS rating system is a scale of 1 to 4, and star 3 and 4 is what's considered a high quality program. There are other national programs that folks can engage in that provide a framework of quality, such as NACCE accredited. If you're NACCE accredited, you're considered an automatic star 4 here in Pennsylvania. I'll share at the end of the presentation a document that's sort of a cheat sheet for what high quality looks like. I'm now going to pass it to my colleague Stephanie, who will share a bit more about what quality looks like in the out of school time space.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Kara. So I am Stephanie Lewis. I am the Director of Allegheny Partners for Out of School Time, which is an initiative of the United Way of Southwestern PA. And we've been around for 10 years now as a local intermediary that is driving quality in after-school programming and summer programming and advocates on their behalf. So our partnership is made up of a group of funders, intermediaries, and out-of-school time providers within Allegheny County. But through the United Way, which serves Westmoreland County, Fayette, and Butler County, we can also help provide connections to out-of-school time programs in those counties as well. So APOST, our work sits in 3 major focus areas. So quality is one, system building, and also advocacy. Next slide, please. So in out-of-school time, we know that there are 3 major things that quality out-of-school time programs achieve. One is they keep kids safe. 2, they inspire learning. And then 3, they help working families. So 85% of working parents say having their child in an after-school program gives them a peace of mind. There are about 800 out-of-school time programs within Allegheny County, and 61 of those programs are actually members of APOST Quality Campaign. So the APOST Quality Campaign is a network of out-of-school time providers that have made a commitment to continuous quality improvement. And some of those markers that they have committed to, I'm going to share today, and you'll notice that they overlap well with the childcare programs. So one is the positive relationships between the youth and the adults in the programs, the activities that help students develop skills, promote learning, and just foster that positive youth development. They have a variety of content and learning strategies that allow students to explore and develop. And then also in regards to the space, safe space and accessible space, very clean and well-maintained facilities, and then also programs promoting fitness and good nutrition and healthy choices for students. Next slide, please. Now I'll pass it back to Kara.
Thanks, Stephanie. So now you know a little bit about what quality settings look like, and you know the types of places they might be located. I'm going to talk a little bit about how you go about finding childcare after school programs, you know, that Stephanie mentioned in summer care. Next slide. There are actually 3 different ways to find childcare here in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm going to talk about a couple of them, and then I'm going to show you in a minute how to access some of these digital tools. So one of the sort of easiest ways is really to just call 211. You can even text your zip code to 898-211. For folks that aren't familiar with Pennsylvania 211, it's part of a national call center initiative that provides a number and resources for finding health and human services. That's also a number that you can text or call, and they can connect you to finding childcare. The other way, which you're going to hear about in just a minute from my friend Christine, is the early learning resource centers here in Pennsylvania. She'll talk to you a little bit about that resource. And then the third way, and the ones I'm going to take you through in just a second, are 2 digital tools that you can find online. And so Mickey, if you don't mind, can you stop sharing your screen, and I'll grab a hold here and walk folks through. So I mentioned that one of the digital tools, and this actually just rolled out about probably 6 weeks ago, is something called AlleghenyChildcare.org. It is an online tool, and I'm going to walk you through it here, that provides folks with, in real time, open childcare facilities here in Allegheny County and vacancies. If you type in AlleghenyChildcare.org, it'll take you to this page. There are 2 documents I want to point folks to. One is that how to choose, find, and pay for high quality childcare. This is a great cheat sheet for parents. The other one is a family checklist of questions to ask your early learning provider about how they're managing or mitigating COVID. This is a really important resource that we want to make sure families have as they begin to embark on sort of moving back into childcare. So if you click on this button, Find Childcare, it'll actually let you just start your search. The next step is typing in a child's name. So I'm just going to put in test, and then a birth date. So I'm going to pick April 1st. I'm going to make this child about 3 years old. And then your next step is that you get to search by either your home address, your work address, another address. It could be grandma or grandpa's address because maybe they're doing the pickup at the end of the day. or along your commute from, say, home to work. So you get to choose your area of search. I'm going to put an address in here, and I'm going to search. And what comes up is, if it's your first time, there's sort of a set of directions that walks the user through the website. So it talks about the more filters that you can utilize. It shows you that you can like your favorites. So any of the programs that come up that you're interested in following up, you can press the heart and save it. Once you've saved some of your favorites, it creates a list. Once you have the list, you can actually download that document. You can send it to your spouse, you can send it to your parent, your grandparent who might want to weigh in. But that walks you through a set of sort of how to go about doing this. So when I typed in the address, what it did was pulled up a number of centers or programs that are near the address. And if you click on the address, so this first one that happens to pop up is the Jewish Community Center. It tells you the star rating. It tells you if it has spots available for preschoolers. It tells you their hours of operation, and it tells you whether or not they accept financial subsidies. If you scroll down, you can find a number of other programs. The ones with X's say, right now we don't have any space open for a 3-year-old. The ones that have the check mark tells you that there are spots available. So again, you can scroll down. Going back to what Stephanie shared, this website does also include out of school time providers. So here is an APOST quality campaign member. They participate with Stephanie's program, the Queen's Gambit Chess Institute. Their information is in here. So it looks like right now they may not be open, which makes a lot of sense given where we are with the pandemic. There are other programs. Here's a Star 4 program. Again, it tells you the hours. So it brings up a list of programs. Again, you can save them to your favorites list. You can pull them down as a document, a CSV file or a PDF file. You can send it then through your email to yourself. Then you can forward on to your spouse or other folks that you wanted to share this information. So this is a wonderful online tool. And this is focused specifically on Allegheny County, and it includes both licensed childcare providers and also the out of school time and summer care providers that Stephanie mentioned. So it's a one-stop shop for all of those programs. There is another feature or another online tool called Compass that serves the entire state, that also allows you to search for childcare programs by an address. So I typed an address in here earlier. I click Find a Provider. And what it does is pulls up a list of providers near that address. Again, it tells you star rating. It gives you their address. It gives you their inspection reports. All the same information that you find in the Allegheny tool. The only difference is that this website includes all programs across the state. So for folks that operate in Fayette, Greene, Washington, Westmoreland, Beaver, Butler, Indiana, I'm sure I'm missing another Southwest PA county, you can search using this tool. The one difference is that this tool does not provide real-time vacancy and openings, but I believe the state is trying to get there with this tool. It just happened to be that we were able to pull a group of partners here together in Allegheny County and secure some funding sort of at the height of COVID to bring you the Allegheny Childcare Finder tool. So those are two more digital options that folks have to search for childcare or out of school time programming. I'm going to pass it to my colleagues. I'm going to stop sharing, Nikki. Pass it to my colleague, Christine. Who's going to talk to you a little bit more about the ELRCs. Thanks, Christine.
Hi, my name is Christine Smith. I am the eligibility supervisor for the Early Learning Resource Center for Region 4. We do serve Fayette, Greene, Washington, and Westmoreland counties. We are the hub of childcare information in your local area. We provide you and your family with information on quality childcare and personalized childcare referrals to childcare providers based on your specific needs or preferences. The Early Learning Resource Centers, we also administer the Childcare Works Subsidy Childcare Program. So ELRCs, they provide the single point of contact for families, early learning service providers, and communities to gain information and access services that support high quality childcare for early learning programs. Next slide, please. Okay. Funding for care, whether your child is 6 months or 12 years old, varies depending on your family income and setting. As Kara had mentioned, to find childcare in our area, you can use the Compass website to find childcare providers close to your area that you choose, or you can contact our office. Our resource and referral specialist, she can personalize a childcare referral based on your specific needs or preferences. And we can get that to you by email, mail, whichever you prefer. And we also refer to 211 for the everyday needs and in crisis situations. Next slide, please. So ELRC's role is to support the Child Care Works eligibility. And how does a family qualify for child care subsidy? Well, a parent would need to be working at least 20 hours or more per week. Their income needs to be under the 200% of the poverty income guidelines. Parents will need to complete an application for the program, and an application can be completed online on the Compass website, or you can call our office to get an application mailed or emailed to you, or you could visit our website at elrc4kids.com. On our website, there is the application along with forms to be completed with the application, such as the employment verification form. They're all on our website in PDF format for you to print, and the application can come back to our office via email, fax, or mailed. You need to verify your employment to us, report your earned and unearned income to the ELRC to be determined eligible for subsidy. If you are eligible, you will be responsible for a copay to pay to your child care provider that you have chosen, and it's going to be based on your income and your family composition. If a family is receiving cash assistance through the county assistance office, they will need to talk to their CAO caseworker regarding their child care eligibility. Next slide. Early Head Start, Child Care Subsidy, pre-K accounts are publicly funded programs paid by state or federal dollars. Programs may be offered in school district or child care centers. Pre-K Counts is a state-supported high-quality pre-kindergarten program that gives opportunities for at-risk 3- and 4-year-olds at no cost to the families. At-risk may be 300% of the poverty income guideline, developmental delayed or disabilities, or learning English as a second language. Head Start is a federally funded comprehensive early childhood education program supplemented by the state investment. To be eligible, you will need to be at 100% of the federal poverty guidelines. In addition to education, health, nutrition, and family supports are offered. And Head Start classrooms can be found in schools, centers, and other locations within the community. Early Head Start, these are home visitation programs that provide comprehensive early childhood education for children age birth to 3. Now, after school and summer care programs come in a variety of price points. Some could be free. Those might be unregulated after school programs to subsidized programs through the CCW funding, which are all regulated providers. And that's where the parents will pay a copay based upon that family income and family composition. Even if you do not qualify for at these levels, many programs offer their own scholarships or tuition assistance programs depending on the area that you may live in. All you need to do is ask each program that you're considering about financial assistance, and they may be able to help you. Next slide. Here is the contact information for ELRC Region 4. Our main office is located in Greensburg. We do have 2 satellite offices located in Fayette and Washington. Our physical office locations are currently closed due to the pandemic, but despite the need to close, our staff are all available to assist you through phone or email. So please feel free to contact us with any questions or need help with anything. Next slide. And this is the information for Region 5, Allegheny County, with their address, phone, fax, and email. And I'll turn it over to Kara.
Thanks, Christine. And I'll just add, Mickey, before we send these slides out to all the participants, we're going to add one more slide to this deck, which includes the contact information for ELRC Region 3, which serves Armstrong, Beaver, Butler, Indiana, and Lawrence. That way you have in one full slide deck all of the ELRCs that serve all of Southwest Pennsylvania. So I'll just make a note that we'll do that for folks that are on the webinar right now and looking for information in the other counties that we didn't highlight. So probably folks are pretty interested in learning what's happening given COVID. I'm going to share this slide with my colleague Stephanie. Right now here in Allegheny County, 85–90% of programs are open. The challenge, however, remains that that those programs that are open are really only serving an upwards of 50% of their capacity. And the reason for that is to ensure the physical distancing recommendation that the CDC has put forward. So what that means is that you might find that there's less capacity. Well, what you will find is there is less capacity than typical. Although right now we are aware that there are about 2,500 spots that remain open in that 85–90% of programs that are open. And the reason for that is, we were talking about this before we started the webinar, Kat and I were, is that really a lot of families are still trying to figure out their comfort level with returning back to childcare. They're trying to understand what's occurring in childcare. And what's going to happen in the fall with, the K-12 setting. So you're going to begin to see, I think, some shifts occur over the next month or two. I do want to just remind folks to point back to that family checklist that I mentioned earlier that lives on the front page of the AlleghenyChildcare.org website that helps support families in having those conversations with programs about how they're handling COVID. And now I'll pass it to Stephanie, who will talk a little bit about what's happening with programs given COVID in the out of school time space.
You can go back to the previous slide. So it's very similar to childcare. Providers are operating at about 50% capacity. And right now within Allegheny County, there are only about 50 programs that are operating in person. And that tends to change week to week, but most providers have now pivoted to a virtual platform for multitude of reasons. It may be that their space is not large enough to actually host program and do it in a safe social distance manner. And they're all following any program that is open for in-person are following the health and safety guidance that are coming from the CDC. So as a parent, one great resource that Trying Together has on their website is a family checklist of questions regarding COVID. So you can go to the next slide because the checklist really covers a lot of the guidance that is listed here. And I just wanted to share this information with everyone today. So one is requiring all staff and children over 2 to wear masks. Some sites have shared that, younger students, it's a little harder to get them to keep their mask on, but doing the best they can to make sure that everyone is protected and doing their part in mitigating the spread of COVID-19. Another guideline is frequent hand washing and increasing the cleaning, disinfection, and ventilation at the site. So since they are keeping students within smaller groups, when groups transport from one area to the next, going behind those groups to make sure that that area is thoroughly clean to keep down on the virus as well. And then also doing temperature screenings at arrival of the staff and the children to make sure if anyone comes in with a fever that they're sent home, and then staggering the drop-off and pick-up when possible, and not allowing outside visitors to come in. So these are a lot of the guidelines that our providers that are open for childcare and also for summer camps, they're both following the CDC guidelines to make sure everyone remains safe. And now I'll pass it back to Kara to talk about other ways that we can be supportive during COVID-19.
Thanks, Stephanie. So this is really our final slide before we open up for the Q&A. And I think the thing that I want to emphasize more than anything is that there is an ample amount of space for all of us, no matter our role in the community, to really take part in finding a myriad of ways that we can support families during this time. I mean, I'm a parent of school-age children myself. I lead an organization, and I will say as a parent, I'll be honest and say it's been a challenging time in our household since mid-March. And I think sort of recognizing that how work gets done may have to look a little bit different for many employees. And I think sort of asking for that grace from our employers is one of the things that employers can do to be supportive of families. Certainly, and I think, I'm talking to employers now, you all have been experiencing how flexible can you be? What are different ways that we can do this work? I think continuing in that mindset is really important for families. For employers where, you maybe are in the service industry and, you have a set schedule of hours that you're open and you're serving the public. And maybe you have a lot of hourly employees, providing ample sort of warning before a schedule is changed, an employee's schedule is changed, would be helpful to many employees. They're going to have to sort of figure out their childcare needs. And so the more frequent that their schedule changes, the bigger the challenge it is for them. I think, one of the other best ways that folks can be supportive is really to ask employees for input about what they need, for their own input about what they need to do their best work while being really good parents. I think all of us struggle with feeling a little bit guilty we're not doing enough as parents, and maybe feeling a little guilty we're not being the best worker that we can be. So really asking our employees for input about how you as an employer can be supportive is a great first way to start the conversation. And then I think sort of leading into that, after you do hear from your parents, your employees that happen to be parents, maybe helping them to facilitate parent-driven solutions. I think parents have ideas and minds about, maybe I can share a caregiver. Maybe I can partner with another parent who has a school-age child the same age as mine. We're hearing that a lot of school districts are going to be doing remote learning come fall, and so parents are going to have to be figuring out how to be both an employee but also a teacher and a parent. So really sort of helping to understand what are their needs and maybe thinking alongside them. And then lastly, I would be remiss if I didn't say that certainly the childcare infrastructure prior to COVID was already a really fragile, really fragile structure. It was a system that is not well funded. It is a system that is not well compensated. It is a system that operates on a really thin margin. And COVID has done nothing but really shake that fragile sort of foundation that it was already operating on. And so I think if there is one thing I ask that you take away from this, that is that we need as many voices in the room amplifying the need for us to have, as a country, a well-supported care infrastructure for our economy. I was invited to come on to this webinar because we were hearing that employers were really struggling because they wanted to be able to support their employees. And I think for many of us that are outside of this field, it's the first time we're really understanding how the system works, how it's funded, and learning for the first time how fragile it is. And so I invite you all to certainly contact me if you want to talk more about how you can sort of be a champion for early childhood and the providers that provide care for all of the young children in our communities. And so I look forward to being a partner with you. So with that, I think I will pass it over to, I think maybe it's going to Becky.
Yep, it's going to me.
Okay. And thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
So thank you all, Kara, Stephanie, Christine, Kat, for coming on and having this important conversation around, as we get our economy up and running, how do we do it with childcare and the balance? So thank you very much. We have a lot of questions, so I will get to those, and some around COVID, some just around the resources. But first, I just want to remind everyone on our webinar today that not only this webinar, but many of CARE's resources are on our website, AlleghenyConference.org/COVID-19. Most of those will be listed under the resources for community and businesses section. And you'll see some slides later with that web address directly as well. So don't worry, we will make sure you have all of the links and information that has been talked about today, as well as a recording of the webinar as you move forward. So with that said, going back a little bit to just looking at how we help in this COVID situation, especially right now, there are a couple of questions regarding sort of the safety of childcare facilities with COVID. One of which was asking even, what is a way that parents could pre-screen, prior to even going in that first appointment or meeting with a new child care provider, and kind of knowing what is being done to modify their areas to assist.
Thanks, Becky. So let me make sure I understand the question. And I pulled up the Q&A and looked at some of the questions that I saw coming through. So So on the AlleghenyChildcare.org directory and on Compass, the state directory, both of them include all licensed childcare programs across either Allegheny County and the AlleghenyChildcare.org directory or across the state in Compass. Licensed means that you comply with a basic set of regulatory requirements. So it's health and safety, it's background clearances of your employees, it's that kind of base sort of commitment, and that's what enables you to get a license. From there, STARS is a great way to sort of understand their commitment and engagement and quality. So looking at their STAR rating. And then beyond that, whether again, you're on the Allegheny Childcare directory or if you're at Compass, there is something called inspection reports, which all licensed programs have to get an annual unannounced inspection. And so those inspection reports share information about what the inspection folks found, what the certification folks found about a child care provider. So that's some sort of base information and base screenings that would tell you about their commitment to, air quote, sort of the system. Beyond that, I think sort of how to choose quality childcare, that document tells you what to look for. And then the COVID document that provides families with a set of questions, those would be sort of your next step. So once you have maybe done some initial search online or called the ELRC, you could call Christine's team, where they will walk you through some program options. The next really task is having a conversation with that provider. I have a colleague who has since retired who said not to underestimate a parent's gut. And I think that while we have created all these sort of cheat sheets, whether it's information that exists in the directory or in Compass, or the documents that you can take alongside for how to choose quality childcare or the COVID question, I want to make sure I also emphasize that a parent's gut is also a really important indicator. And so, when you walk into a setting, does it feel good to you? Do the children appear happy? Do the program staff appear happy? Are they warm and friendly? Are they getting down to a child's level? That's all criteria that I would use as I were to screen a provider. And of course, referrals. So talking to your friends and other people that you sort of really value and love in your life and say, who have you used? What do you know about this childcare provider? I think those are all ways that you can sort of screen providers along the way. And then I don't know, Stephanie, do you want to answer that in the out of school space a little bit?
Definitely. So for out of school time, most of them tend to be unregulated. Kara actually showed on the Allegheny Child Care Finder where you can see if someone is a member of our APOST quality campaign. And so that means that they have made a commitment to quality. It's not necessarily regulated in the sense of childcare, but it gives parents a good indicator that the program is committed to quality program around the relationships, the activities that they offer, maintaining safe space, and also professional development for their staff as well. So those are all of the things that indicators show they are committed to providing quality program, even though they're not necessarily regulated.
Great, thank you for that. Stephanie, while I've got you, can you speak a little bit more? I know some of us are very familiar with 211, but it's to those who aren't, it's a great tool and resource, and how that might also, from there, also resources for those outside of Allegheny County.
Yeah, so 211 is actually for throughout the state of Pennsylvania. So definitely a great resource as far as housing, any crisis that you wouldn't necessarily call 911 for, you could call 211 for. And there are resource navigators that will take your call and navigate you in the right direction and connect you with resources beyond United Way, with our different partners and organizations that we work with.
Great. And just to clarify for those listening, 211 something you can call of any sort of health and human resources questions about anything around that's run by the United Way, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Wonderful. So I know, in other times we've heard some sort of alarming statistics, and Stephanie, you even mentioned 50 childcare facilities right now are open. Could you or Kara or Christine, anyone speak a little bit to how has this impacted our region? The number that have closed, how are we seeing things reopen? Do we have any sense of how much of the workforce is being left without childcare right now?
Yeah, I'll start, and then Christine and Stephanie, if you want to hop on. So last week, if you heard in the governor's announcement, I'm trying to think of which day of the announcement he made. He talked about 65 programs across the state had turned back in their license, which means they were closing their business down, and that there were another 100 more that basically weren't participating in receiving the stabilizing funding, that the stimulus funding that the state was providing, because it must mean that they are moving to close. Here in Allegheny County, I think I've heard in Allegheny County somewhere between 5 and 10 programs have decided to close. And I think that where we're going to see the greatest impact is really in the months to come. So right now, and you heard the governor talk about it last week when he talked about stimulus funding, there are a set of payments that are going out to the early learning programs across the state over the next few months, which will help to decrease some of that loss in revenue. But the question will remain, as long as COVID goes on and they have to operate at 50% of capacity, they will continue to experience that revenue loss. Right now, the state is continuing to pay the publicly funded programs that they had been paying, and they've committed to that. They've committed to paying the subsidy enrollments through the end of August, no matter if you had full enrollment or not. But beyond August, we don't know what that's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen to those programs. So we are really concerned in sort of the months to come. And certainly that's something that I will be keeping the Allegheny Conference sort of in the know of, because it will have a real impact on access to childcare. And you'll begin to see that employers are really feeling a pinch because they have employees that either can't find childcare, can't take a job, can't come back to work. But I really think the true impact is forthcoming. We just don't know what it's going to be, but I can tell you there is an impact, and it's going to be great. I don't know, Christine or Stephanie, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I would just say for out of school time, very similar. And the added unfortunate thing for them is that all of those programs don't necessarily receive subsidies. A lot of them are grant funded, and we've noticed that those are some of the providers that have taken the largest hit. And even for some of the programs that were able to withstand this hit so far and have opened for in-person program, they're finding a lot of unexpected costs as they're operating, as far as the amount of cleaning supplies or getting testing if there tends to be a positive case at their site while they're operating this summer. So I agree with Kara that we're going to see more of this linger on as time goes on.
Great. Thank you guys so much. I mean, that's not great, but you know, it's we have to sort of understand the world we're living in. I'd like to shift a little bit to Kat, since you have, you know, offered your time here and being sort of our business representation on the panel. Would you mind speaking a little bit to sort of what are some of the programs and policies? I know you had a childcare fair. I know you're still probably navigating daily on how this is affecting your workforce, but any lessons learned or tips or tricks out there you'd like to speak to? Oh, and you're muted, sorry.
Maybe I'd speak to the childcare fair first. Just even what you heard on this panel today, there's a lot of important information that's available to our employees. And so what we chose to do at PNC is we gathered this group that's on this phone and ran a session for our Allegheny County-based employees. And just to give you some statistics, we're about 8,000 people in Allegheny County, and we think that of our employees in Allegheny County, there's probably about 3,000 to 4,000 children that need some form of childcare. Now, we're like some companies, we have employees who are back fully staffed in our branches. So our branches opened on July 6th to full staffing, and we have employees who are working from home as many companies do. So we were really concerned about our branch staff and their ability to access childcare because they hadn't needed to for most of the first 3 months of the pandemic. And so the childcare fair was really important for us. I think we had probably 250 to 300 people join. There were a lot of questions and a lot of interest on what were their options and how do they get informed. So the first thing I would suggest is there's great information here, and just getting the information to your employees is, I think, step number one. Now, what we were very clear about is PNC is not trying to negotiate or be in the middle of these decisions. I think, as Kara so appropriately said, it's a parent's decision. It's very personal. It's about what works for you, but just giving people a sense of what was out there. And I think for our employees, it was this connection between not only the early childhood care, but so many of our parents who have school-age children who, even though school is out, need a lot of attention, and people are working from home, can't give them that attention while they're trying to complete their day jobs. And so we found there was huge support and feedback, not only in this market for the work that was done, but to give you an example, we invited people from our other markets who help coordinate across the country to attend so they could similarly send out this information to their employees. So we haven't changed our policies in any way relative to our expectations of employees and sort of more support relative to childcare. We're trying to get them information as efficiently and quickly as we possibly can.
Great, thank you. So really just being that knowledge platform and then letting them make decisions from there.
Yes.
That's great.
I have heard, though, I think it's worth sharing, and Kara sort of mentioned it in her closing comments, that, you know, companies are trying to facilitate, for lack of a better term, message boards or coordination options for people who maybe live close together, who think they could share a support or a service. And so we have not done that yet, but we have heard of good big companies in our region who are doing just that.
Well, that's a great tip. Thank you so much, Kat. I know we just have a few minutes left, so I guess the next sort of closing from anyone who would like to jump in here is what is the best next step for someone listening? If you're a parent or a business person, would it be going to the Trying Together website? Obviously, we have our resource page at AlleghenyConference.org, but we've thrown a lot of information out here, and I know there's a lot of questions still on details on how to, you know, approach childcare and have conversations around, you know, COVID-19 and if a child's been diagnosed there, things like that. So who would be the best next step to get to?
Hi, Becky. I think certainly that last slide included my contact information, Stephanie's contact information, and Christine's contact information. Trying Together serves all of Southwest Pennsylvania. We happen to also be the quality partner to the ELRC for Region 5. So we are happy to help both employers in terms of being a thought partner to employers to say, what other strategies could we employ to support our employees? Kat mentioned message boards. That's something that we've been thinking about. We've also crafted a survey for us to get a better sense of what parents' needs are going to be. And specifically, once we hear sort of after this week with what's happening with the K-12 system and whether, you know, every district is open or if they're all doing all of their classroom experience remotely or if it's hybrid. So trying to think through how we can support parents. And then I would just also add that we have a number of resources. We actually have a parent resource page on our website that provides a variety of information. So everything from the directory to those documents or sheets that help parents sort of navigate childcare. There's a lot of information, a wealth of information that can be found there. And then I just want to keep, you know, putting a plug in for the ELRCs. Christine was gracious enough to attend for ELRC 4, but like I said, there's ELRC Region 3, 4, and 5 collectively serves all of Southwest Pennsylvania. And you can call any of their numbers and they can help families move through sort of finding and funding childcare. And then Stephanie, who works for the United Way of Southwest PA, certainly has she has her pulse on what's happening here in Allegheny County, but could connect you to what's happening in other counties. So I think any of the three of us can be a great place to start. And if we don't have the answer, we will find someone that does.
Wonderful, thank you. No, I appreciate the wrap up because there's a lot out there, but really knowing who to navigate to and towards. So with that said, I'm going to turn it back over to my colleague Sarah Gall. She'll just have a few closing statements and also be able to highlight our resources once more. Thank you all.
Thanks, Becky, and thanks to everyone who participated in today's webinar. We hope that you find programs like these helpful and informative, and a big thank you to all of our presenters today, Kat McLaughlin, Kara Simonillo, Stephanie Lewis, and Christine Smith. We'd also like to thank again our sponsors, Peoples, Giant Eagle, Highmark, and UPMC Health Plan for their support, which allows us to offer this critical programming. A reminder again that the Allegheny Conference has COVID-19 response website, including our Ready Pittsburgh Reopening Toolbox, which we hope will serve as a resource for you as our region continues with a safe and sustained recovery. You can find a link at the top of our homepage at AlleghenyConference.org. Please also be on the lookout for invitations to join us for upcoming installments of our Allegheny Conference Response and Recovery webinar series. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.